His hand grabs mine with a desperation that makes my entire world stop spinning. Alexander Knight, the most powerful CEO in the country, the man who controls half the global economy, is dying in my arms in this sterile hospital room, and his last words are about to shatter everything I thought I knew about myself. Lily, he whispers through labored breathing, his storm gray eyes burning into mine with an intensity that terrifies me. I know who you really are. I've always known. Please, before it's too late, you need to remember. You need to remember who you were before you became my nurse. 3 months earlier, everything was different. I was just another night nurse at St. Mary's Hospital, living paycheck to paycheck in my cramped studio apartment, eating instant ramen for dinner and taking extra shifts to pay off my student loans. My name was Lily Reed, and I had been nobody special for exactly 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. Not that I was counting. Not that something deep inside me knew that everything about my life was a carefully constructed lie. The night they brought Alexander Knight into my ward changed everything, though I didn't know it yet. What Alexander didn't know, what nobody in this entire hospital knew, was that 3 years ago I woke up in a different hospital 2 states away with no memory of who I was, where I came from, or why I was wearing a wedding dress covered in blood and river water. The only thing I had besides that ruined dress was a nurse's uniform I found in a donation bin and a natural, almost instinctive knowledge of how to care for others. The police said I was lucky to survive the car accident, that the river current should have killed me. So I became Lily Reed, night nurse, nobody special, because being nobody felt safer than being somebody I couldn't remember. But sometimes in the darkest hours of my night shifts in my dreams, I see flashes of a different life that feels both foreign and achingly familiar. Crystal champagne glasses clinking at galas I can't quite place, a massive mansion with marble stairs that my feet seem to know by memory. My hands signing papers I can't quite read while my heart breaks into a million pieces. And always there are storm gray eyes exactly like Alexander's, looking at me with an emotion I can't name, but that makes me wake up sobbing, clutching my chest where it feels like someone ripped my heart out and forgot to put it back. Mr. Knight needs specialized around-the-clock care. The head nurse, Patricia, told me that first night, her voice unusually grave. He's been working himself literally to death for the past 3 years, trying to find someone incredibly important. A woman who disappeared on their wedding night. The Sinclair heiress, worth $30 billion. Without her signature on crucial merger documents, he loses everything his father built, everything 500,000 employees depend on. The stress is killing him faster than any disease could. Where in the world are you watching from? I love knowing how far these stories travel. Now let's continue. I should have walked away right then. Should have requested a different patient, a different shift, a different life. Something deep inside me, some primal instinct I didn't understand, screamed danger the moment I read his name on that chart. But when I entered his private room, the VIP suite that looked more like a luxury hotel than a hospital room, and saw him lying there, this titan of industry reduced to a vulnerable human being weakened by exhaustion and grief, something else stirred in my chest. Recognition? No, that was impossible. I'd never met Alexander Knight. I was sure of it. Almost sure. His fever spiked dangerously that first night, reaching levels that had me calling for backup twice. In his delirium, he thrashed against the expensive sheets, his powerful frame fighting invisible demons, and he called out a name over and over until his voice went hoarse. Sophia Sinclair. The way he said it broke something inside me I didn't know existed. Please come back, he begged the empty air. I never meant for it to happen this way. The contract was supposed to protect you, not drive you away. I'm so sorry. God, Sophia, I'm so sorry. I love you. I should have told you I love you. My hands trembled violently as I worked to cool his fever with ice packs and medication, And that name, Sophia, felt like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed in my mind. When his eyes suddenly snapped open, clearer than they should be in his fevered state, and locked onto mine with laser focus, I saw it clearly. The flash of something impossible in those storm-gray depths. Recognition. Pure, undeniable recognition. Then confusion. Then a pain so deep it took my breath away. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by the polite distance of a patient looking at his nurse. But I knew what I saw. He knew me. And somehow, impossibly, I knew him too. The next morning brought chaos in expensive suits. Lawyers, dozens of them, filling his room with leather briefcases and barely contained panic. "We have 3 weeks, Mr. Knight," the lead attorney said gravely, his Rolex catching the morning light as he gestured at a stack of documents. 3 weeks to find Mrs. Knight, the Sinclair heiress, and get her signature, or the entire Knight Industries empire collapses. The banks are circling like vultures. Your enemies are sabotaging deals. Without the Sinclair fortune as collateral, everything your father built over 40 years will be dissolved and sold for parts. After the lawyers left, I found Alexander staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows at the city skyline below, his shoulders carrying the weight of the world. $30 billion, he said quietly to the glass, his voice hollow with exhaustion. That's what Sophia inherited when her father died. That's what I need to save my companies, to protect 500,000 jobs. But it was never about the money, not really. I need to find her because I never got to tell her the truth. Never got to explain why I did what I did. Never got to tell her that somewhere between the contract and the wedding, I fell completely, irrevocably in love with her. What truth? I asked softly, my professional boundaries already crumbling as I adjusted his fore with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. What did you need to tell her? He turned to look at me with those storm-gray eyes so full of pain it physically hurt to maintain eye contact. That I married her for all the wrong reasons, he admitted. That the marriage was arranged by our fathers when we were children. That I agreed to it for the money, for the merger, for the power. But somewhere along the way, before she disappeared into the night like a ghost, I fell in love with her smile, her kindness, the way she looked at the world like it could be saved. I fell in love with Sophia, not her money, and I never got the chance to tell her. That night, I had the most vivid dream yet, so real I woke up gasping and clutching my chest. A wedding dress, pristine white silk and lace, hanging in a closet I recognized but couldn't place. A contract on a marble table, my hand holding a gold pen, trembling as I signed my name. And Alexander's voice, cold and businesslike, nothing like the broken man in the hospital bed, saying words that shattered my heart. This is just a business arrangement, Sophia. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't expect love because I'm incapable of it. Your inheritance saves my company. My name saves your reputation after your father's scandal. We both get what we need. That's all this will ever be. I woke at 3 a.m. with the worst migraine I'd had in 3 years, the kind that made me see spots. I nearly threw up in the staff bathroom. When I finally made it to Alexander's room for my shift, he was worse, much worse. His brother Marcus was there, and they were shouting at each other with a venom that made the air toxic. "You drove her away!" Marcus screamed, his face red with fury. "Sophia ran because you treated her like a business transaction, not a wife. You had this beautiful, kind, loving woman who would have given you everything, and you destroyed her with your cold corporate heart. She's probably dead because of you." "Get out," Alexander said weakly, but with enough force to make Marcus storm off. After his brother's footsteps faded, Alexander's hand found mine, holding it with surprising gentleness for someone who apparently had a cold, corporate heart. "I'm sorry you had to hear that, Lily," he said, my fake name sounding strange on his lips. You must think I'm a monster. A man who marries for money and loses everything that matters. A man who deserves to die alone in this hospital bed. Sometimes I think Marcus is right. Maybe she is dead. Maybe I killed her with my inability to love. You're not a monster, I said, surprising myself with the fierce conviction in my voice. You're just a man who made mistakes. We all have pasts we regret. Things we wish we could undo. Something flickered in his eyes. A spark of hope, maybe. Do you have regrets, Lily? Sometimes I look at you and feel like you're carrying the weight of a world you can't remember, like you're running from something even you don't understand. It's in the way you flinch when someone says the word wife, the way you unconsciously touch your ring finger where there's a pale line like you wore a ring for years. How did he see through me so easily? How did he know about the ring tan line I covered with makeup every day? I changed the subject quickly, but that night, alone in my apartment, I did something I'd sworn I'd never do. I searched for Sophia Sinclair online for the first time. When her photo loaded on my laptop screen, my blood turned to ice, then fire, then ice again. The woman in the picture, the billionaire heiress who disappeared 3 years ago, looked exactly like me. No, that wasn't right. She didn't look like me. She was me. Same eyes, same nose, same birthmark on my neck. I always hide with scarves. Just with longer hair, designer clothes, perfect makeup, and a life worth $30 billion. My hands shook so violently, I dropped the laptop as I read article after article, each one making me sicker than the last. Heiress disappears night of wedding to Alexander Knight. Car found abandoned on Riverside Bridge. Blood on the driver's seat. No body recovered from the river. Husband Alexander Knight offers $10 million reward for information. FBI involved. Presumed dead after 3 months. 3 years ago. Exactly when I woke up with no memories, 2 states away in a hospital where no one asked questions about a woman with no identity who paid cash for treatment. I should have run right then. Should have quit my job, packed my few belongings, disappeared again into another identity, another life, another lie. But I couldn't leave Alexander. Not when he was getting sicker every day, his body shutting down from 3 years of exhaustion and grief. Not when he looked at me with such trust, such growing affection that had nothing to do with Sophia Sinclair and everything to do with Lily Reed. Not when I was falling in love with him, truly falling, despite every logical reason not to, despite knowing he was my husband. The husband I ran from. The husband I was hiding from in plain sight. Tell me about her, I asked one night, my voice carefully neutral as I changed his bandages from where they'd inserted a central line. Tell me about Sophia. What was she like? His eyes grew distant, lost in memories that I suddenly, desperately, wanted to share. She was kind, he said softly, unlike anyone in our social circle. So different from the society women I knew who only cared about status and designer labels. She volunteered at hospitals. Can you believe that? A billionaire heiress who spent her free time reading to terminal patients, holding the hands of the dying, bringing flowers to forgotten souls. She had this light about her, this genuine goodness that made everyone around her want to be better. The irony wasn't lost on me. This cosmic joke the universe was playing. Here I was, doing exactly what he described, being exactly who he remembered, and he couldn't see it. Or could he? Sometimes I caught him staring at me with an expression I couldn't decode, like he was solving a complex puzzle, piece by piece, like he was waiting for something. Like he knew but was giving me the choice to reveal myself or not. The thought terrified me more than not knowing who I was. Because if he knew, if he'd always known, then why was he letting me pretend? What game were we playing in this hospital room? Then came the night everything changed forever. Alexander's condition deteriorated dramatically, his heart rate spiking, machines beeping in alarm. As I rushed to stabilize him, My scrub top shifted, exposing my shoulder where I had a distinctive scar from a childhood accident I couldn't remember but somehow knew involved a horse. Alexander's hand shot out, grabbing my arm with surprising strength, his eyes wide with shock and something else. Recognition. Complete, undeniable recognition. "That scar," he whispered, his voice breaking. Sophia had the exact same scar. From a riding accident when she was 12. Her horse Midnight threw her during a jump. I was there. I carried her to the hospital. "Oh my God, it's you. It's really you." I pulled away violently, my heart hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. "Lots of people have scars, Mr. Knight," I said. But my voice shook, betraying me. "You're seeing things because you miss her, because you want her to be alive so badly you're seeing her in everyone." But his eyes wouldn't leave mine, boring into my soul with an intensity that made me want to run and stay simultaneously. He knew. I could see it clearly now. He knew exactly who I was, had probably known from the moment I walked into his room 3 months ago. And he was giving me the choice, the power to reveal myself or not. The question was why. That night, the dreams weren't dreams anymore. They were memories, flooding back like a dam breaking. The car accident on Riverside Bridge, my wedding dress getting caught in the steering wheel as water rushed in through the broken windshield. The terror of drowning, of dying on what should have been the happiest night of my life. Swimming to shore, disoriented, terrified, bleeding. Finding the abandoned hospital uniform in a donation bin. Creating a new identity because the old one felt like danger I couldn't understand. The decision to become nobody because being somebody had almost killed me. But why had I been running that night? The answer came with another memory, this one sharp as broken glass. Alexander's voice, cold and clinical on our wedding night, as I stood in the honeymoon suite he booked but wouldn't be sharing with me. "Don't expect love, Sophia. This is a business merger between two powerful families. Your father's reputation was destroyed by his scandal. You need my name to survive in society. I need your inheritance to secure my company's future. That's all this will ever be. We'll live separate lives. Discreet affairs are acceptable. Just don't embarrass me publicly." Those words, delivered without a hint of emotion, had shattered my heart into pieces I was still finding. I had loved him even then, had loved him from the very first moment we met at that charity gala 2 years before our wedding. He'd been different then, warmer, funnier, human. We talked for hours about books, about travel, about dreams. He'd held my hand during my father's funeral, had been the only one who didn't judge me for crying. But something changed when the marriage contract was signed. He became cold, distant, corporate. The man I fell in love with disappeared, replaced by a stranger in an expensive suit. So on our wedding night, I ran. And fate gave me a second chance as someone else. Someone who didn't have to carry the weight of being Sophia Sinclair. The next morning brought disaster in the form of truth. Alexander's lawyer, Mr. Peterson, arrived with a triumphant smile and devastating news. "We found her," he announced to the room full of Alexander's family and board members. "We found definitive proof that Sophia Sinclair is alive. She's been living under the assumed name Lily Reed, working as a night nurse in this very hospital. She's been here all along, right under our noses." The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye in the room turned to me. My blood turned to ice, my carefully constructed world crumbling in seconds. 3 years of hiding, destroyed in a moment. Alexander's eyes never left my face as chaos erupted around us. Family members gasping, board members whispering urgently. "Leave us," he commanded with more strength than he'd shown in weeks. Everyone, now, when the room emptied, when we were finally alone, the silence stretched between us like an ocean of unspoken truths. "How long have you known?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Since the moment you walked into my room, he said simply. I'd know those eyes anywhere. I've been looking at them in my dreams every night for 3 years. But I needed you to choose to come back to me, not be forced. I needed you to know who I really am, not who I was 3 years ago. Then why didn't you say anything? Tears were streaming down my face now, 3 years of suppressed emotion breaking free. Why let me pretend to be someone else? Why this charade? His answer broke me completely. Because for the first time since our wedding, you looked at me without fear or obligation or resentment. You looked at me like I was just a man who needed help, not a cold corporate monster who destroyed your life. And I needed that. I needed you to see me, really see me, not my money or our contract or my family name. I needed you to know the real me, the one I hid from you before because I was too scared to be vulnerable. But you need my inheritance to save your company, I said, my voice harsh with pain. That's why you were looking for me. That's why you spent 3 years and millions of dollars searching. Not because you loved me, but because you need my money. He shook his head slowly, tears I never thought I'd see running down his face. I was looking for you because every day without you has been hell, Lily. Sophia. Whatever you want to be called. The company, the money, the empire, none of it matters if you're not there. I learned that the hard way. 3 years of success that felt like failure because you weren't there to share it with me. I don't believe you, I said, the words coming out harsher than intended but necessary for my sanity. You married me for my money. You said so yourself on our wedding night. You made it crystal clear that love wasn't part of our arrangement. His face crumpled like I'd physically struck him. I was an idiot, he said. A coward, a fool. Yes, I married you for money initially. But I fell in love with you long before our wedding. Probably that first night at the charity gala when you laughed at my terrible jokes and didn't care that I'd spilled wine on your designer dress. I just never had the courage to say it. I thought showing vulnerability would give you power over me. I thought distance would protect me. Instead, it cost me everything that mattered. Prove it, I challenged, my voice stronger now, channeling Sophia's strength, not Lily's fear. If you really loved me, if it wasn't about the money, prove it. His response stunned me into silence. He reached into his bedside drawer, pulling out a worn leather journal I recognized. My father's journal, the one that had disappeared from his study the night he died. Inside, he said, are all the letters I wrote to you but never sent. 3 years worth. Every day since you disappeared. Read them, and then decide if I deserve a second chance. If we deserve a second chance. I opened the journal with shaking hands, and Alexander's handwriting spilled across the pages like a confession. My dearest Sophia, the first entry began, dated the morning after our wedding. By the time you read this, if you ever do, I hope I found the courage to say these words aloud. I love you. I loved you from the moment you spilled champagne on my shoes at the charity gala and insisted on personally cleaning them, laughing the whole time. You laughed and my carefully constructed world, built on corporate deals and cold logic, shifted on its axis. I've been off balance ever since, falling more in love with you every day. I leaned closer, our faces inches apart now, close enough to share breath, to share heartbeats. Well, I'm here now, I whispered, and I'm not going anywhere. Not running, not hiding, not pretending. I'm here, and I choose you. I choose us. But you have to promise me something too. Promise? He asked, vulnerable as a child, hopeful as a man who'd been given a second chance at life. Promise me no more walls, I said. No more business arrangements, no more cold distance when emotions get too real. Just us, raw and honest and imperfect and real. Can you do that? Can you be that man? Just us, he agreed, and then he kissed me. It wasn't like the perfunctory kiss at our wedding that had all the warmth of a business handshake. This was real, desperate 3 years of longing poured into one perfect moment. His hands cupped my face like I was something precious, something that might break or disappear. When we pulled apart, we were both crying, but they were happy tears this time. Tears of relief, of joy, of second chances. "I love you," he whispered against my lips. "I love you, Sophia. I love you, Lily. I love every version of you that exists or ever will exist." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of controlled chaos. The media went absolutely insane when they found out Sophia Sinclair was alive and had been working as a nurse. Headlines screamed about the billionaire heiress who chose scrubs over silk, the runaway bride who saved her husband's empire, the love story that conquered death itself. But we didn't care about any of it. Alexander kept his promise, checking out of the hospital and into a real recovery program. And I kept mine, continuing my night shifts while he learned to be a patient, to let someone else take care of him for once. We did date like normal people, and it was everything I never knew I needed. Pizza in my tiny studio apartment where he had to duck to avoid hitting his head on the low ceiling. Movies on my ancient couch that creaked every time we moved. Walks in the public park where no one recognized us because billionaire CEOs didn't walk in public parks. He learned how to use a washing machine and was ridiculously proud of himself. I learned how to trust again, to believe that someone could choose me over money. We learned how to be us without the weight of $30 billion between us. His family was shocked, naturally. Marcus actually cried when he saw me for the first time, pulling me into a hug that nearly broke my ribs. "You're alive," he kept saying over and over. "We thought we'd lost you forever. Thought Alexander had driven you to..." He couldn't finish the sentence. His mother, the formidable Catherine Knight, was less welcoming at first. "You ran away and nearly destroyed my son," she accused, her voice cold as Alexander's had once been. "Good," I replied, meeting her eyes steadily. "He needed destroying. The old him anyway. The one you and his father created. Cold, calculating, alone. That wasn't your son. That was a business robot wearing your son's face." She stared at me for a long moment, then burst out laughing, surprising everyone, including herself. "You're right," she admitted, her cold facade cracking. He was becoming exactly like his father. Successful and miserable. Rich and empty. I watched it happening and did nothing because I thought that's what strength looked like. You saved him by leaving, forcing him to feel something real. And you're saving him again by coming back, by teaching him that love is stronger than any business deal. Welcome home, Sophia. Though I hear you prefer Lily now. Both, I said firmly, finally understanding who I really was. I'm both. Sophia Sinclair was who I was born, shaped by privilege and expectation. Lily Reed is who I chose to be, shaped by purpose and simplicity. I need both parts to be whole. The heiress who can change systems and the nurse who can change lives. The woman with resources and the woman with compassion. She smiled, really smiled. Then be both, be everything. Be the woman who makes my son smile like he hasn't since he was a child. Just love him. He's never been the same without you. None of us have. The company transition was smoother than expected once I signed the papers. With my inheritance secured, Alexander's empire was saved from the vultures. But more importantly, he changed fundamentally how he ran it. Shorter hours became mandatory, not suggested. Better benefits, including mental health support. A foundation for medical care that I would run. Profit sharing that actually shared. He became the leader I always knew he could be. The man his father never allowed him to be. The man who understood that success without happiness was just expensive failure. I did buy the hospital, but not to own it. To improve it. Better equipment that actually worked. better salaries so nurses didn't need 3 jobs, free care for those who couldn't afford it, and a program for patients with memory loss that I designed myself. My colleagues were stunned when they found out who I really was, that the quiet night nurse was actually worth billions. But they were more stunned that I kept working my shifts, kept showing up at 3 a.m., kept holding hands and changing bedpans, and singing softly to scared patients. This is who I am, I explained to a reporter who couldn't understand why a billionaire would choose to work night shifts cleaning up bodily fluids. The money doesn't define me, it enables me. The work does define me. The people I help do. The difference I make does, and my husband understands that completely. He loves that about me. He brings me coffee at 4 a.m. and sits in the break room just to be near me. That's love. Not galas and diamonds, but coffee and companionship at 4 in the morning when the rest of the world sleeps. 6 months after our reunion, Alexander proposed again. Not in some grand gesture at a 5-star restaurant, but in my hospital break room at 3 a.m., both of us exhausted from different kinds of work. He got down on one knee between the vending machines, holding a ring that wasn't worth a fortune but meant everything. Sophia Sinclair Knight, Lily Reed, the woman who saved my life by leaving and saved it again by returning. Will you marry me? Again? For real this time? For love this time? Forever this time? I said yes, of course. How could I not? But I had one condition that made him laugh and cry simultaneously. No big wedding, no society pages, no 500 guests we don't know. Just us, your family, my colleagues, and a ceremony that means something real. A ceremony about love, not mergers. About choosing each other, not combining fortunes. He agreed instantly. Whatever makes you happy, makes me happy. That's my new business model. My new life model. Your happiness is my success metric. We married in the hospital chapel 3 months later. I wore scrubs under my simple dress just in case there was an emergency because that's who I am. Alexander laughed when he saw them, lifting my dress slightly to reveal the practical shoes and scrubs underneath. That's my wife, he said proudly to everyone who'd listen. Always ready to save someone, even on her wedding day. You saved me, I reminded him as we exchanged rings. We saved each other, he corrected, kissing me as everyone cheered. Dr. Morrison, who treated my amnesia 3 years ago, attended the wedding with tears in her eyes. I always knew you'd remember who you were, she said, hugging me tight. But I'm so glad you also remembered who you'd become. Both versions of you deserve happiness, deserve love, deserve everything. And looking at him, looking at you like you hung the moon and stars, I'd say you found it. You found your way back to each other and forward to something even better. Our honeymoon was 2 days in a cabin by the lake. Nothing fancy, nothing exotic. Alexander had a board meeting he'd rescheduled 3 times. I had shifts to cover because we were short-staffed, but those 2 days were perfect in their imperfection. No pretense, no pressure, no performance. Just us learning each other all over again. Or maybe for the first time, without contracts and expectations clouding everything. We talked, really talked. We laughed. We cried. We made love. We made plans. We made a life. Do you ever regret it? He asked one evening as we watched the sunset from the dock. The accident, the amnesia, the 3 years we lost? I thought about it carefully, wanting to give him truth. No, I said finally. Those 3 years taught me who I am without the money, without the name, without the expectations. And they taught you who you are without the armor, without the walls, without the cold distance. We needed that time apart to be ready for this time together. We needed to break to learn how to heal. He pulled me closer, holding me like I might still disappear. I love you, Lily Sophia Knight. Every version of you. The heiress who challenged society, the nurse who saves lives, the woman who runs from fancy parties to work night shifts, The woman who eats instant noodles with chopsticks while reading medical journals. Even the version that makes me watch terrible reality TV? I teased. Especially that version, he laughed. The sound free and genuine. That version taught me that perfect is overrated. Real is everything. We moved into a normal house in a normal neighborhood. 4 bedrooms, which seemed excessive, but Alexander insisted we'd need them someday, his eyes twinkling with hope. A real kitchen where we learned to cook together, badly at first. A garden Alexander learned to tend, finding peace in dirt and growth. His board was horrified naturally. The night air living in suburbia? Stock prices might fall, but Alexander didn't care anymore. This is home, he said simply. Wherever you are is home. A mansion is just an expensive box without love in it. My memories continued returning in pieces, like a puzzle slowly completing itself. Some painful, like the moment I realized my father's scandal was destroying me too. Some beautiful, like the first time Alexander smiled at me genuinely, not his business smile but his real one. But I didn't need all of them anymore. I had enough. I had now. I had us. The past was important, but not defining. The present was everything. The future was ours to write. 1 year after our real wedding, I found Alexander in the garden, planting roses because I'd mentioned once that I loved them. He'd taken the day off, a miracle that still surprised me. His hands were dirty, his expensive shirt ruined, and he'd never looked happier. "What are you thinking about?" I asked, kneeling beside him. "How I almost lost everything that mattered by chasing everything that didn't," he said. "How grateful I am for second chances, for third chances, for every chance." "Alexander," I said, taking his dirty hand in mine. "I have something to tell you. Something important. Something wonderful." His eyes filled with concern immediately. "Are you okay? Are you remembering something bad? Is something wrong at the hospital?" I shook my head, unable to stop smiling. "No, something good. Something new, something we created together. Alexander, I'm pregnant. We're having a baby." The words hung in the air between us for a moment. Then his face transformed with a joy so pure it took my breath away. He dropped the watering can, pulled me into his arms, and spun me around right there in the garden, both of us crying and laughing simultaneously. "A baby," he kept saying in wonder. "Our baby, a little you." "Or a little you," I corrected, laughing at his expression. "God help us either way," he laughed. "But they're going to be perfect, aren't they? They're going to know love from the very first second. Real love, not contracts and arrangements and cold distance. They'll know warmth and laughter and safety. They'll know that money is just a tool, not a goal. They'll know that love is the only real currency that matters. They'll know everything we had to learn the hard way." That night, as we lay in our normal bed in our normal house, living our beautifully normal life with our extraordinary love, Alexander whispered against my hair, "Thank you." "For what?" I asked, already half asleep. "For coming back, for choosing us. For being brave enough to be yourself, both versions of yourself. For loving me when I didn't deserve it, when I didn't even love myself. For showing me that vulnerability is strength. For teaching me that success means nothing without someone to share it with. For our baby, for our life, for everything." "You always deserved love," I said, turning to face him. "You just had to learn to accept it, to believe you were worthy of it. We both did. We both had to learn that love isn't a weakness or a business deal or a contract. It's a choice we make every day." He kissed my forehead tenderly. "How did I get so lucky?" "You didn't get lucky," I corrected. "You got something better. You got a second chance and were brave enough to take it. We both were." The baby kicked for the first time during my shift 5 months later. I was checking on a patient, Mrs. Chen, who'd been telling me about her grandchildren when I felt it. That flutter of life, that proof of our love growing inside me. I texted Alexander immediately, and he showed up at the hospital 15 minutes later in his pajamas, having driven across town at 2 a.m. just to feel it too. The entire night shift gathered around us, laughing at the billionaire CEO in dinosaur pajamas with his hand on my belly, waiting for another kick. My colleagues had fully adopted him by now. "That's Mr. Lilly," they said fondly whenever he showed up with coffee and donuts for everyone. The billionaire who acts like a normal husband because he finally learned that's what matters. "That's because he's a normal husband," I said, watching him charm the entire night shift, remembering everyone's names and their kids' names and their problems. He just happens to have a lot of money. But the money doesn't have him anymore. That's the difference. The birth was complicated. 20 hours of labor that tested every limit we had. Alexander never left my side, not once. He held my hand through every contraction, whispered how strong I was, how proud he was, how loved I was. When things got scary, when the monitors started alarming and doctors rushed in, he was my rock. "We're going to be okay," he kept saying. "All three of us. We're fighters. We're survivors. We've been through worse and came out stronger. This is just another test, and we're going to pass it together." When our daughter finally arrived, screaming and perfect and absolutely beautiful, Alexander sobbed harder than I'd ever seen him cry. "She looks like you," he said in wonder, touching her tiny fingers with one of his. "She's beautiful like you, strong like you, perfect like you. She's going to change the world like you changed mine." "She's ours," I corrected, exhausted but euphoric. "Ours to love, to guide, to let be exactly who she's meant to be. No contracts, no arrangements. No expectations except happiness." We named her Hope Elizabeth Knight. Hope because that's what she represented, what we represented. Hope that love could overcome fear. Hope that second chances were real. Hope that two broken people could create something whole and perfect and beautiful. Elizabeth after my mother, who died before she could see me marry, but who would have loved Alexander's transformation. The press had a field day with the name, but we didn't care. Hope was our miracle, our proof that choosing love over fear always leads to something beautiful. Marcus visited the next day with arms full of toys and tears in his eyes. "She's going to be spoiled rotten," he warned, but his voice was soft with love. "Between your billions and Alexander's empire, this kid could buy the moon." "She already has everything that matters," I said, watching Alexander sing off-key lullabies to our daughter. "She has parents who love each other, who chose each other, who fought for each other. She has a family that values love over money. Everything else is just details." Marcus nodded, understanding. "She's the luckiest kid in the world, and it has nothing to do with money." We raised Hope in that normal house with extraordinary love. She went to public school, made friends who didn't know her last name was worth billions. She learned the value of money by earning it through chores and summer jobs. She volunteered at the hospital with me, reading to patients like I'd once done. She learned business from Alexander, but more importantly, she learned balance. She learned that success without happiness is failure, that money without purpose is paper, that love is the only investment that always pays dividends. Years later, when Hope was 16, a journalist asked her what it was like being the heir to two massive fortunes. Hope laughed, sounding exactly like me, looking exactly like Alexander. "I'm heir to something much more valuable," she said with wisdom beyond her years. "I'm heir to a love story. My parents taught me that money comes and goes, empires rise and fall, but choosing to love someone every single day, fighting for that love, that's the real fortune. That's the legacy that matters. Everything else is just numbers in a bank account." Alexander's company became the model for corporate responsibility. Work to live, don't live to work became more than a slogan. It became policy. The board initially resisted, predicting disaster. Instead, profits increased. Productivity soared. Innovation exploded. Turns out, happy employees who have lives outside work create better results. Who knew? Alexander would joke at board meetings. Everyone except CEOs, apparently. We were so busy counting money we forgot to count what mattered. Happiness, family, love, purpose. Now we count both. I became head of nursing eventually, not because of my name or money, but because of my dedication and innovation. I still worked night shifts sometimes, unable to give up the quiet moments with patients who needed someone. Still held hands of the scared. Still sang softly to the dying. Still found my purpose in healing. The money just meant I could do more of it, help more people, change more lives. Create more programs for people with memory loss, for people starting over, for people who needed second chances. On our 10th real anniversary, Alexander recreated our first meeting at the charity gala. He even hired the same band, found the same champagne, wore the same tux he'd worn 20 years ago, though it was a bit tighter now. I deliberately spilled champagne on his shoes, just like that first time. But this time, instead of apologizing profusely and running away embarrassed, I laughed. And this time, he pulled me into his arms right there on the dance floor, not caring about the champagne or the crowd or anything but us. 10 years, he announced to the room, asking for everyone's attention like the dramatic man he'd never stopped being. 10 years ago, I married this woman for her money. It was the smartest business decision I ever made. The crowd gasped, not knowing our history. Not because of the $30 billion, though that saved my company, but because it brought me her. And she's worth more than all the money in the world. She saved my soul, gave me purpose, taught me love, gave me hope, literally. I was a drowning man who thought he was swimming. She showed me what shore looked like. The crowd applauded, but I rolled my eyes at his dramatics even as my heart swelled. Still dramatic, I teased, pulling him closer. Only for you, he whispered back, then louder to everyone. This is my wife. She saves lives by night, raises our daughter by day, runs charities in between, and somehow still loves me despite all my flaws. She's Sophia when the world needs changing and Lily when hearts need healing. She's everything. I'm the luckiest man alive, and I know it. I nearly lost her once. Never again. That night, Hope asked us to tell her our story again, the real version, not the sanitized one we told the press. So we did, holding nothing back. We told her about contracts and car accidents, about amnesia and assumed identities, about fear and courage, about choosing love over logic, heart over head, about how sometimes you have to lose everything to find what really matters, about how we found each other by losing each other first, about how breaking apart taught us how to come together stronger. Will I have a love story like yours? Hope asked, her eyes bright with possibility. We hope not, Alexander said quickly, making her laugh. We hope yours is simpler, easier, less painful. But if it's not, I added, taking her hand, remember this. Love isn't about perfect beginnings or smooth journeys. It's about choosing to begin again as many times as it takes until you get it right. It's about being brave enough to be vulnerable. It's about knowing that some things are worth fighting for, worth changing for, worth risking everything for. 20 years have passed since that night I walked into Alexander's hospital room as Lily Reed. 20 years since I was both Lily and Sophia, caught between two identities, two lives, two loves that were actually one. And still both, will always be both. The merger of those two identities created something stronger than either alone. Something real. Something unbreakable. Something worth $30 billion that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with choice. If this story has touched your heart, Leave a little heart emoji in the comments. I'll know you felt it too. Alexander's hair is silver now. Completely silver. And it makes his storm gray eyes even more striking. He still brings me coffee every morning at exactly 6:47. Still hates the smell but loves my smile when I take that first sip. Still works hard but comes home for dinner. Still tells me I'm beautiful when I'm in scrubs covered in things I won't mention. That's love, he says. Seeing beauty where others see mundane. Finding extraordinary in ordinary. Choosing the same person every day and finding new reasons to fall in love. We've had our challenges over the years. Business crises that tested Alexander's new principles. Health scares that reminded us how fragile life is. Hope's teenage years when she rebelled against both the wealth and the simplicity. My mother's memories that sometimes still don't come. But we face them all together. No contracts, no arrangements, no cold distance. Just promises. Promise to stay. Promise to try. Promise to choose each other, especially when it's hard. Promise to remember that we've survived worse and come out stronger. Sometimes I dream about that night on the bridge when everything changed. The water rushing in, the wedding dress dragging me down, the choice to swim to shore and become someone else. I could have gone back immediately. Could have reclaimed my life, my identity, my fortune the next day. But something, call it instinct or fate or fear, made me choose differently. Made me choose to become Lily. And that choice, that terrifying leap into the unknown, led me back to Alexander. The real Alexander, not the cold corporate machine. I think it was hope. I told Alexander on our 20th anniversary. Not our daughter, but actual hope. Hope that there was something better than what we had. Hope that love could be more than a contract. Hope that I could be more than an heiress, that you could be more than a CEO. And I was right, wasn't I? We found it, we built it, we chose it, we became it. Every single day for 20 years, we've chosen it. And we'll keep choosing it until our last breath. Hope is getting married next month to a teacher named David. Not a billionaire. Not a CEO, just a good man who loves her for exactly who she is. Someone who makes her laugh, who holds her when she cries, who sees all her imperfections and calls them perfect. We raised her right, Alexander said proudly when she told us. She knows what real love looks like because she watched us figure it out. She knows that money is just a tool, that love is the only real wealth. She knows that choosing someone is more important than being chosen by them. At Hope's engagement party last week, someone asked how Alexander and I met. Before we could answer with our practiced version that skips the painful parts, Hope spoke up with pride in her voice. My parents met 3 times, she said. Once by arrangement when they were young and scared. Once by accident when they were broken and hiding. And once by choice when they were brave enough to try again. The choice is the only one that mattered. The choice is the only one that ever matters. Everything else is just prologue. She was right, of course. Every love story is really about choice. Choosing to trust when you've been hurt. Choosing to forgive when you've been wronged. Choosing to begin again when you've failed. Choosing to be vulnerable when being strong is easier. Alexander and I chose each other over money, over fear, over the easy path of staying broken, and we keep choosing. Every morning when he brings me coffee. Every night when I come home from the hospital. Every moment in between. Choice. Always choice. Tonight, Alexander is dying in my arms again. But this time, it's just the flu that's going around the hospital. Men are such babies when they're sick, I tease, but I hold him anyway, cool his fever anyway, love him anyway. Because that's what you do when someone is your whole world. You show up. You stay. You choose them even when they're difficult, especially then. Lily, he whispers through his fever, just like that first night 20 years ago. I know who you really are. I smile, kissing his fevered forehead the way I've done 1,000 times now. Oh yeah, who am I? I play along, knowing the answer, loving the answer. You're the woman who saved me, he says, his voice stronger than it should be for someone with a fever. You're the woman who left me to teach me what losing meant. You're the woman who came back to teach me what love meant. You're my wife, my love, my life, my choice. You're my second chance that I somehow didn't waste. You're Sophia when the world needs power and Lily when it needs healing. You're everything. And you're mine, I whisper back. Our hands intertwined exactly as they were that first night, but now the desperation is replaced with certainty. My second chance at life. My first chance at real love. My always and forever choice. My Alexander who learned that strength means being vulnerable. My husband who chose love over billions and got both anyway. He squeezes my hand, that same grip from 20 years ago, but now it's not desperation or fear. It's gratitude. It's promise. It's love. It's everything we've built and everything we've become. We're everything. And that's enough. It's more than enough. It's perfect. It's worth more than $30 billion. It's worth everything. It's home. The end. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. If it reached your heart, even just a little, don't leave without letting me know. A simple heart in the comments is enough. And if you want to feel more stories like this, stories about love that survives everything and souls that find each other again, make sure to subscribe to Dramora Stories. Every story here is a reminder that love always finds its way back. And maybe so will you.